Hi, I'm Eric Hartzell, and for our presentation, I had the history and conservative side of capital punishment. A little history in general. In the 1700s, the Code of Hammurabi of Babylon contained the first known death penalty laws. 25 crimes were punishable by death, and believe it or not, murder was not part of the 25 crimes. The most famous of his laws were, if a man were to put out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out as punishment. In 1775, the death penalty used in all 13 colonies at outbreak of American Revolution. Rhode Island was the only colony that did not have at least 10 crimes punishable by death. Hanging was the usual sentence at this time. In 1787, our founding fathers allowed for the death penalty when writing the Constitution. And on June 3rd, 1968, our U.S. Supreme Court forbid the dismissal of jurors based on personal opposition to capital punishment. And then in 1994, the federal death penalty was expanded when President Clinton signed the 1994 crime bill. And then just as recently, on April 25th, 2012, Connecticut repealed the death penalty and is actually no longer allowed, except for the 11 criminals that are already on death row. Once they are executed, that will be the last of them all. On the slide 2, my organization of pro-capital punishment, www.jfa.net, that's Justice for All. It is a criminal justice reform organization and acts as an advocate for change in a criminal justice system that they believe is inadequate in protecting the lives and property of law-abiding citizens. And many reasons, on the slide 3, many reasons for capital punishment is, well, right out of the Bible. Since the dawn of creation, the law of God to man has been, if anyone sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood then be shed. And basically, today we refer to this biblical principle in public law as capital punishment, basically an eye for an eye. And interesting enough, besides the fact that the death penalty's origin is found in the Bible, every society, religious or not, has adopted the death penalty in a suitable way to deal with murder. And like I said, not only in American history, but nearly all societies around the world, capital punishment has been used to both punish and restrain political dissent. Countries like China, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, Egypt, Libya, Bangladesh, Singapore, Thailand, and I mean there's many more countries that consider the death penalty justice. Killing and murder are two different things. Like I said, killing can be as simple as self-defense, and murder is the unlawful killing of another human, which obviously distinguishes the difference between them very dramatically. Moving on to slide 4, continued reasons for capital punishment. I'll just read off a few here. The death penalty gives closure to victims' families who suffered so much. It's tough just seeing them get off and just go to prison, just like somebody who steals a car. It's tough seeing them, one of your siblings die and there's no justice. It's tough. It creates another form of crime deterrent, and justice, like I said, is better served. It gives prosecutors another bargaining chip in the plea bargain process, which is essential in cutting costs in the overcrowded court system. Moving on to slide 5, the legitimate role of government involves the protection of life, liberty, and property. And a little example of that, just if we were invaded by another country's army, our goal would be to go at war and to defeat them by either death or surrender. And my question is why is it any different if it's just an individual within our society? It's killing. It's the killing of other people. It's the war against our citizens. It's the war against our society. And like I said, murder is a crime for which the victim cannot come back and say, I refuse to press charges, or I wish to press charges. The victim has no voice. They're dead. Murder is a crime for which no payment by the criminal will ever fully satisfy the debt that was incurred. So for many families, seeing the criminal put to death helps them cope with the death of their siblings. The death penalty is not, as socialist activist lawyer Clarence Darrow once claimed, an act of revenge. It is an act of justice. Moving on, in conclusion, I got this, one of the attorneys, from JFA.net, Justice for All, on capital punishment was, and I'm just going to read this. I loved it. No system of justice can produce results which are 100% certain all the time. Mistakes will be made in any system which relies upon human testimony for proof. We should be vigilant to uncover and avoid such mistakes. Our system of justice rightfully demands a higher standard for death penalty cases. However, the risk of making a mistake with the extraordinary due process applied in the death penalty cases are very small, and there is no credible evidence to show that any innocent persons have been executed, at least since the death penalty was reactivated in 1976. The 100-plus death row inmates, innocent, I don't know how to say this word, exonerated and released, has trumpeted by anti-death penalty activists, is a fraud. The actual number of factually innocent released death row inmates is closer to 40, and in any event should be considered in context of over 7,000 death sentences handed down since 1973. It stands as the most accurate judgment/sentence in any system of justice ever created. The inevitability of a mistake should not serve as grounds to eliminate the death penalty any more than the risk of having a fatal wreck, and then that should make automobiles illegal. So basically, in conclusion, I do not believe the death penalty is an act of revenge. I believe it is an act of justice, and there are many cases, especially in mass murderers and in serious reasons like treason, where the death penalty should be legal. Thank you very much.